Thank you for listening to the number one podcast in the world that helps athletes develop proficiency and also assist in their passion for the game they love. We have some great responses from listeners. I'm so glad you guys have been listening. Please leave comments and also download. I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Please keep passing the word and download the You Going Pro podcast. Today is episode 64. We are going to have a very good podcast today. I'm excited. We have the LA Dodgers ML video coordinator and also the assistant coach for the very own World Champions 2024 LA Dodgers, Petty Montero. How are you doing, Petty?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm doing great. Just thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, just looking forward to having this chat and going from there.
Man, it's just really good to have someone that has had an opportunity to be around guys at a high level and coach the world champions. Let's just call it what it is. A lot of people listen to it and they mean, well, I don't like them. Well, you didn't got. I don't like a lot of things, but a champion is a champion. You can't take that away from them because apparently you did a lot of good things to get to the top, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice, and definitely a grind. That's
A
for sure.
grind. I mean, and I know a little bit about your humble beginnings. Let's talk about one thing: your beginning. You as a young Latino playing baseball in high school. I'm throwing you a curveball.
Ooh,
How was
wow.
that when you started back in the day?
Yeah. So my first year, my freshman year of high school was '99. Graduated in 2003 out of San Fernando High School in
Okay.
the San Fernando Valley, out of in Los Angeles.
Okay.
Yeah. Is going to obviously a different school, graduating eighth grade and then going to a different program. It was, definitely a different experience going to a school that was year round. And,
Mm,
I played three sports in high school, four sports, and, trying to balance all those things out, which I'm definitely fortunate enough because all of my coaches, all the sports I played, allowed me to go play the other sport where I wasn't, stuck having to play
yeah.
one or the other. And I had done that my whole life. So, I think that's a big part of where I'm at today because it's given me, different avenues of discipline and understanding, attention to detail and things that
Yeah.
I've been able to do, later on in life. So, uh, you know, I think learning from things that I was able to do and overcome with injuries, especially, going into my senior year,
Hmm.
uh, definitely put me where I'm at today, as a lot of learning experiences and bumps in the road.
I hear you. I hear you. I mean, you from LA area, so you've played, you know what it's like to play with a high level in California because I'm here in South Florida and we already know the first three states that people talk about for athletes, California, Texas, and Florida.
Yeah.
So my question to you, playing at a school you did play at, what was the level like of competition back when you were playing?
When I was playing, it was definitely powerhouse. Like
Okay.
you had Chatsworth High School, you had El Camino High School, San Fernando, Kennedy, Silmar, uh, Banning, Bell, Carson,
Wow.
Gardena. I think. Yeah, I mean, we had like
That's like
the
eight
city
schools.
section was, yeah, city section, and they were all like a lot of them were in different sections. So coming in my freshman year, we had changed leagues, and the three schools in my league, which was San Fernando, Kennedy, and Silmar, like we were just like rivals, dogs, fighting every single day, every time we played each other. But then you had the East Valley, which was El Camino.
Hmm.
You had um, El Camino, Chatsworth, and a couple of other schools too that had they were in their own league, also had their own rivalries, but then we would play each other. So, there's a lot of guys that have come out of that area, out of the city section too, that have
Hmm.
gone on to play, whether it's college baseball, professionally, and a lot of guys in the big leagues as well.
Right.
So,
Right.
definitely the competition was real growing up in high school,
I
and
like it.
I mean, there were some dudes on every team. It just wasn't one guy. There was like multiple dudes
Multiple
on
dudes. Okay.
every team.
It's good. It's good you said that because, like I said, I coach in South Florida and you see dudes and these guys get drafted out of high school. And I know sometimes it sounds really good, but are you matured enough to handle that? You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of guys
Yeah,
can't handle it, Petty. I mean, think
right.
about it. A lot of guys get up and they be like, "Ooh," because it's like this. It's like giving a kid a big cake. They're not even ready. They can barely chew on a crumb, but you're giving them a cake, and but sometimes I don't think they're prepared for that big thing. But there's a few that are, which you know and
Right.
I know, but
Right.
very few can handle that because that's a lot of pressure. Going to the minor leagues, getting prepared for the next level because they're going to invest millions of dollars in you. They're expecting a whole lot. Would you
Right.
agree?
Of course, definitely. And I think even just growing up in that LA area where guys are trying to prove themselves or whatever the case may be. It didn't matter
What it is?
how tall, how small you were. Like you just try to play big, whether you were small or you were a big guy. Like there was just no fear, and those are some of the things that I remember too. Is like watching guys that the smallest guy to the biggest guy. There was just guys just trying to get after it every time in every sport, like
Yeah.
football, basketball, especially baseball, obviously because that's what we're talking about. But from the baseball standpoint, I just had my alumni game right before I came out to Arizona for spring training, and
Yeah.
looking at some of my teammates, and you start talking about games that we played, and then I
Yeah.
talked to other guys that I played against in high school that I'm still friends with. Actually, one of my buddies that we played against each other in high school, and literally he's actually a coach with us now. He was a player with us before that, Blake Galen, and I joke with people all the time like this guy was a knuckleballer throwing 70 miles an hour, and then this guy just hits rockets everywhere as he's leaving. Like
See?
so it's really cool to like see that stuff full circle. I mean,
Right.
my high school teammate played in the big leagues, and it was
Yeah.
to see him the other day too was unbelievable. Miguel
Yeah.
Gonzalez, and to see what he looked like in high school, and
Yeah.
then when he
Yeah.
went to junior college, and now like the growth. And I think that's a lot of things too, like young athletes and players, and even coaches at the younger level, youth level. They they want right now, and they don't realize that. I mean, even major league players, minor league players, are even high school, college are still growing and getting better every single day.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think you might see a guy that's 5'2",
Right.
140, and then by his senior year, he might be 6'1", 6'2". Like, there's
Yeah.
also that patience part, and I get it. Like, unless your job's on the line, but
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't think there's a rush to like judge players because you don't know what you're getting when they're
Right.
14 and then they're
Right.
17 or
Right.
18 years old.
Right. It's interesting you just said that because I do training here, and it's interesting because I got a kid that's I can just trained him before the show. He's 10, and he's like a little poppy. He's Latino, and he hits the ball over. I think the field is like 200 on the corners, and he's hitting it out the park. But his dad is bragging. I'm like, he's good, but there's so much more that he has no idea. He's going to develop. He's going to be a good kid. But you can't really, like you said, you can't really judge it. I mean, it's good for him. I'm glad for him, but
Of course.
but you don't know what God has in store after this because like you said, I mean, when you're good, there's other guys just as good.
Right.
And you got that's a mental game you have to play with. But I want to bring up to the next step after you got out of high school. And what was your next step after high school? What were some of your dreams and goals you had?
I mean, definitely wanted to go to college, and just like everyone was thinking about playing D1 baseball. Like that was my biggest thing. And unfortunately, my senior year of high school, I tore my ACL, MCL, my lateral and medial meniscus in football in
Mm,
week 6, and that shortened my season. It was right before my birthday, and the doctor was like, "You got probably a year before you can come back and play." And I was like, well, in my head, I was like, "That's not an option." I
right, right,
came back in 3.5 months and played, and unfortunately, I wasn't able. This was at the time like when they started like inviting you to these camps because there was none of that before. Like now, it's completely different. Like I would
yes,
probably be lost right now. I have some friends, their kids are trying to get ready to go to college and stuff, and like what's up with all this? Like they got to go to this showcase and that showcase. Like they didn't have any of that stuff when I was going through.
no, me either,
We would
no,
get an invitation to
right,
like a school to
hmm
go to like their specific camp, but you
right,
didn't, it was like something. It's not the camps that they're
right,
doing now, and
correct,
that I couldn't go to these camps because I hurt my knee. Like I was, and unfortunately, like I probably lost a couple stuff. I know I was talking like the University of Hawaii, Nevada, and there's some other schools out there, and um, I just every now and then I'll go back to my dad's house and find the boxes of letters that I've gotten from schools, and academics was a big part too. So I ended up going. kind of last minute to Cal State Dominguez Hills, which is where my high school coach went and finished his playing career at.
Okay.
Armando Gomez at San Fernando High School. He went to Cal State Dominguez and went there for a year. I just needed to change the scenery. I was kind of in a tough place. Had
Yeah.
to have surgery that next year on my other knee. So it was kind of one of those things where I just needed to uh, kind of start over. Like
Right.
not necessarily the school was bad or anything. It was a great setup. It was just I needed to change my scenery
I get it.
and try to do something else. So I ended up going to LA Harbor College my sophomore year,
Okay.
which is down the street. And believe it or not, our field was getting renovated, and our home field was my school that I went to the year before. So that was our home field, Cal State Dominguez Hills. So we had to practice there and play there. So I was back there.
Oh,
It just ended up working out like that. And it was
right.
great. I saw my old teammates, old coaches,
Yeah.
and then had a really good year my sophomore year.
Okay.
Um, switch hitter had really good numbers offensively, and had nothing. Like I had a couple offers. Lynn University I was talking to because a lot of our guys were going there for school. That was like not our feeder, but like that was where guys were going. One of the schools, and it's probably about 3 weeks before school started, and I was talking to Mount Mercy in Iowa, and the coach was I was going there. I was ready to go, and then the coach calls me back and says, "Hey, I'm leaving the school. I'm taking another job. At, you know,
Oh.
guess it's financially or whatever worked out for him, or maybe it was family. I can't remember.
Hmm.
So and it was kind of probably late in the game, and he probably didn't have anything to offer me wherever he was going. But I
Right.
really liked him, and then somehow this coach from William Penn University in Iowa calls me and starts talking to me, and it's like 3 weeks before school, and then he tells me how much money he wants to give me, and I was like, "Where do I go? When do I sign?" I'm ready. I don't even. I've never saw the school. And like the internet wasn't even like that
Right.
big of a deal
Right. Right.
yet in 2000. That was about 2005. So
Okay.
it's like, yeah, I'll take it.
About
I'm
20 years
going.
ago.
Try to
Almost 20
find a
years.
date, and then uh landed in Iowa, and it was so different, and had to drive almost like an hour from the airport to get to our little town Oskaloosa, and
Yeah.
probably one of the best experience I ever had in my life because all I had to worry about was go to school and play baseball, and it was
It
until I got
wasn't
the
like
cold weather.
California.
Obviously, that's a whole nother thing, but it
Right.
was definitely a good experience. Like I was one of those people that I was fortunate to have really good parents, and they're still amazing. And my dad has helped me a lot. Like I wouldn't be in this game if it wasn't for my dad introducing me to the game, and
Yeah.
my dad and mom teaching me about life skills, and doing laundry, cooking. Like that's one of my passions is cooking. And my dad, anybody that knows my dad, he's a pretty good chef, and
That's good.
I was able to cook for 5 of my roommates in college every single day. So I still cook every night.
That's good.
Yeah, so that I finished, graduated there in 2007 from William Penn University with my bachelor's.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's good, man. That's good because you said something about cooking because uh, believe it or not, I can cook too. And not very many people can cook nowadays. Nowadays
right.
everybody goes out to eat or microwave
Yeah,
or air fry, air fry everything. But it's interesting because I think we have a very similar story because my grandmother taught me how to cook,
okay.
and my dad couldn't cook. My mom wasn't a very good cook, and I'm not trying to bash my mom, but she because she wasn't a very good cook because she didn't like to cook, Petty. She
Yeah,
didn't like cooking, and you can tell. You can just tell. I remember because I'm the oldest of 4 kids, so and when
okay.
you said cooking, I'm like, man, I love cooking. It's just
Me
like
too.
it's like relaxation to me. I'm like, okay, I'm in my zone. It's because I can't play baseball no more. I'm too old. Like, we
Right.
too old to play. But like I tell my wife now, like, listen, get out of the way. Let me just do my thing. Get out of my way. So it's good, man. It's good that you have other skills and you had a very good background with your father, having someone to look up to, and also, going through the things you went through with your knee. You needed somebody that can encourage you and push you and say, hey, you know what? you know, just take that offer and make the best of the situation. It seems like you did from that situation. I mean, let's talk about coming from college to your next step. As I'm reading my notes, you went next. What was your next step after that? Because you didn't just fall into coaching. How did this coaching come about?
Yeah. So So I'll kind of go with, so after I graduated, I was, you don't know what's going to happen, whether you're going to get drafted. You go to these workouts, and you have a good workout, and they just it is what it is, right? So
Mm-hmm.
don't get drafted, don't sign as a free agent. And then independent ball season was already going, so I basically didn't have anything, and I went and got my EMT to become work on an ambulance in LA,
Okay.
you know, and
Okay.
at that time I was already, a couple years back, 15 years old. Um, I was fortunate enough to be around Reggie Smith through my stepfather's nephew, so my cousins
Okay.
invited me to work out with Reggie Smith, and this was I was about 15 years old, and I went through this workout, and Reggie Smith, old Dodger, Red Sox coach with the Dodgers, Team USA, has his own facility, Reggie Smith Baseball Academy in Encino, out of Encino Little League, and he was a big mentor, like helped me through a lot of things, especially when I went to Iowa. And every time I come home, like he'd come let me work out, and as I was going through his academies every year,
Mm-hmm.
somehow he knew that I was going to be a coach. I don't know how he knew this. Like I mean, I love kids. I love working
Right.
with kids, but
Right.
never thought of it as a career or any
Correct.
of that. Because I wanted to be a firefighter just in case baseball didn't work out and help
Okay.
kids as well. And
Wow.
so he would, we would have these. It would be his summer academy, so it was like
Okay.
3 to 7 or 3 to dark, and we would have like these middle schoolers, some younger guys would come, high school guys, and I was already in college, so they were shortstops, so they'd have to hang out with me, and then I would have to like help them and like run through drills and like
Yeah.
if you see that, kind of the same way players help each other, right?
Right.
So
Right.
and graduated from college 2007. He goes, "Hey, what do you think about coming to learn and help?" And I was like, "All right, sure, yeah, like that sounds cool."
Right.
So out for about a year and a half, I sat next to him almost every single day,
Really?
and he would say, "Okay, what do you see? What do you see with the swing? Like, how are you gonna help this guy?" And obviously going through the teaching methods that he taught me and what he's talking to players about. Everyone has their own philosophy and all that
Right.
stuff, but it
Right.
was,
Right.
wherever you go, like that's what you're working on, right? So, um, and then I would sit back there while the other guys were soft tossing, and then at some point he let me. He goes, "All right, let's get you to soft toss." He was teaching me about the soft toss part and how to do it correctly, and then also having the eye for. So when you flip, like what are you looking for in the swing? So you got to be able to multitask. And then, all right, about a year and some change goes by, and
Mm-hmm.
both of our guys that throw from, one of them was his son Reggie Jr., RJ, and my friend Izzy, who had been working already for a few years. They were all hanging and like, "Hey, dude, can you throw?" It's like, "Sure." Well, if anybody knows Reggie, like he's pretty intimidating and unbelievable human, unbelievable
Yeah.
baseball man, and you know he he sits back there and he's behind the cage and kind of one of these things like this. He's watching you, so like you've seen it because you've seen it your whole life when he's talking to you about hitting when you're
Right.
out in the cage, or you watch him like and it's nerve wracking because I've seen him, and I love him. I tell him all the time. I've seen him walk into the cage and get a guy out because he wasn't throwing strikes and let him, and he would finish it. And I was like, that is never happening to me. So the day that I had to throw, like I was like, oh great. And you're looking into home plate, and he's right behind home plate on the bleachers seats, and you're throwing, and I ended up throwing one ball that whole BP round, and I never looked back. And Reggie Jr. was like, "All right, I'm going to do my lessons. You got to help pops." I'm like, "Cool, I'm in." And we start there and help
Wow.
him with these two little guys. We call them Starsky and Hutch.
Okay.
If anybody knows the show, you'll know
Yeah.
it's
Oh
like
yeah.
Woody
I
and
know.
Ming.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So and they were best friends. They're still best friends to this day, and they're now 23 years old, I believe. 20,
Okay.
23 years old. So um, and Reggie was coaching Team USA. They were in China for the World Cup there, and these kids showed up. They were
Okay.
6 years old.
Okay.
Never forget it. And like, "Hey, Reggie here." I'm like, "Oh, he's coaching Team USA." There must have been some kind of mix-up. So I called
Hmm.
Reggie. It's like I don't even know what time it was there, but I called him and I was like, "Hey, Reggie, you got these two little rugrats here. You got Starsky and Hutch." He goes, "All right, you're ready. Take him." And I was like, "Wait, what? I'm not ready." He goes, "You got it." So ever since that, I started doing a couple lessons here and there, but making sure I prioritize his work, and then I would
Right.
take on these guys. And next thing I know, 10 years later, I've been working for Reggie. At the same time, I was preparing to become a firefighter, going to the fire academy, paramedic school, all this
Okay.
stuff, and
All right.
that's kind of where my career started. But there was things that Reggie taught me, and things that were easy to help us develop as coaches. And it wasn't about knowing one thing; it was about knowing a little bit about everything about the game. Whether if you were like, for example, I was kind of a utility player. I caught, I played the infield,
Okay.
played the outfield. My main position was the middle positions, and I played center field in high school up until I think it was like my end of my sophomore year, going into my junior year.
Okay.
Um, and just because I could run, I can go get it. And so like just knowing about pitching mechanics and pitches and all those things and hitting. And he goes, but you got to be passionate about a couple things, and the things that you are, like, you really got to dive in and like understand that part of the game. So I think that's kind of given me a lot of avenues to where I'm at now, which has helped me. And you know the understanding of, like, he had his own cutoff and relay manual, and like he would hand it to you and go, you need to know this in 2 weeks, and you got to run team practice with it. 9 year olds, like, the real way, like, not pitcher cutting off, like first baseman, third baseman, where everybody needs to be, play
Right.
18 outs, all those things. And I think
Game
that's where
situations.
I think a lot of it, where I'm at now, is like the attention to detail and all the things that I've been able to do.
Wow.
Kind of, made me see the game in a different way.
Man, that's good, man. Because wow, Reggie Smith, you're the second person that said something about him in the last two podcasts. Someone brought up his name again. You're the second person that brought his name
And
up.
if you don't know, and then if you don't know the other guy's story, him and I go way back too. He was 12 years old when I met Jeremy.
Really?
Well, he was 12. I was in high school. He used to come to my high school to work out with our high school team, because my high school coach he used to work with. And Jeremy wanted to quit switching, and I told him he's crazy, don't do it. And actually, he started working out with Reggie when I was an instructor there. And then when he was with a high
Padres?
school. Then he went to college. I was still helping him out.
Wow.
Came to the Padres, got drafted, would help him in the offseason whenever he needed it. And then
Yeah.
the reason why I'm with the Dodgers is because of Jeremy Rodriguez. He put my name down for an interview. And here I
Wow.
am, 9 years
Well, it's
later.
interesting you said that because, like Jeremy was talking about it, we had a great, which you heard, I think you heard some of it as well. It was a
Yeah, I did
great
hear that.
interview. And he just talking about Reggie Smith. I'm like, is this the same? Is this the same Reggie? Is this the same Reggie you're talking about? So I didn't
Yeah.
say anything. I just let him talk. Now you brought it up. And then I had another guy went to school with Jeremy. I had an interview with him, and he
Oh,
was.
wow.
I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? It's all these Cali boys. I mean, I'm not against it. He just kept. I'm like, I want to meet this Reggie Smith. I want to meet him. I have to meet
I can
this
put
guy.
you in touch anytime you'd like.
I want to meet this guy because when you hear so many good things about people, you hear bad things all the time. You know that, Petty. All you gotta do is look on the social media, look outside. I'm in Miami, you're in LA. All you gotta do is look outside. You're gonna see something. But when you hear something good about people, you want to be connected to them. I want to talk to them. Like, hey man, let me just kind of pick your brain. When you got time, when you got the time. But it seems like Reggie is doing some great things. You with the right person at the right time because it's all about relationships. Because I was talking to another guy and he was talking about relationships and why is that so important when you're trying to get to the next level? Can you tell the listeners why is it? I know why, but educate them if you don't mind.
I mean, yeah, I mean, a lot of it is, you're building relationships because you have to build trust to be able to communicate with other staff members, other coaches, other players, front office, whatever it is. And no matter what, it's not about us, it's always about the players, and being able to be on the same page and coming together.
Hmm.
I think building that is so important in order for everyone to be successful, because if we're all on different pages and doing different things, it's not going to work. And
Right, right.
I just think that relationships are one of the most important things, because you have to be able to people have to be able to trust you,
Trust you.
right,
Yeah.
with whatever it is. And that includes players. And you know players players, you know they want something that's going to help them, be an ear for them. And no matter what, like, it could be anybody. It doesn't even
Yeah.
have to be a player. It could be anybody. They
Anybody.
just
That's right.
want to be able to talk to. And I think that's the most important part, because no matter what, we're still human. We're
Yes.
all still regular people, and we're just passionate about certain things and good about certain things. And there's no right or wrong answer. No, I don't think anyone has all the answers. And
Yeah.
I think continue to learn. But I think with that relationship building, you're able to take more information from other people, pass
Yeah.
more information to other people,
Yeah.
and now you just keep adding more tools to your toolbox,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I think not being afraid comes from building relationships
Mm.
where, what, I should have confidence to ask you something. If I don't feel confident, it's probably because I don't have a good enough relationship with you, and like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not that person's fault. It's my fault. Like I
Yeah.
should be able to tell you what I feel, and it's
Mhm.
not doesn't even have to be like anything that's bad or good. It could just be a conversation of like, man, I really want to ask him about,
Right.
can you show me what this means
Right.
on the sheet? Like,
Right.
well, I feel nervous. I should never feel nervous to ask anybody that. And
Mhm.
for me personally, I've always been taught that about relationship building and networking and, being able to create those avenues because I like to learn about everything, like not just infield play, not just
Right.
base running, which are my two passions. And I want to learn about hitting and how we dissect pitchers and how we do it from the offensive side and the defensive side and, rules and, why we look at certain players from a
Correct.
front office side and like how that works. And then when you start figuring all that out, you understand why we do what we do as an organization
I get it.
and why you've seen the success that we've
Right.
had
Yeah.
even the year, even before I came
Right.
in 17. I
Right.
mean, we've had a lot of success in 17, and it's awesome. And like I think a lot of it comes to, at least in our organization, the relationship we build with our scouting department, our minor league department, all of baseball operations, from you know the guys that help us with they're called our BSI group, our baseball systems group that helps with our website and things that we're able to look for information. All those people have a big part of what makes our players go, right?
Correct.
And no matter that product you see on the field, there's just a lot of things that happen behind it
Right. Right.
that
Right.
people don't get to see, and a lot of it comes from relationships where
Right.
I should be able to ask you something. I feel like
Well, I
without
like
having to
what you
worry.
said. That's you just kind of you bless me because there's moments that we all go we get nervous once in a while. I don't like to say afraid. I want to say nervous.
Right,
We get nervous, but we do get afraid. And like for example, starting a podcast or asking somebody something you don't know the answer when you know they have the answer but they don't know you. And old saying, you know what I'm saying. You don't know until you don't know, but all they can say is yes or no. So just ask anyway.
right,
And it also depends on how you ask because
right,
sometimes people come off, the wrong way, because, you're from LA, I'm from Chicago, and it's rough. You got to have some thick skin. Just go at it. Just go. What you got to lose? You got nothing to lose. At least
right,
you know the answer, and also what I think what helped me is playing baseball in college, but also going on my own to have my own business. And I was in sales. So when you were in sales, you got back in the day we made cold calls before all this internet and all this other stuff. You just get on the phone and just call, 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 call. And it was one of those things you go call 20 people, you're gonna get one. Or 10 people, you get one, and get 20, you get two. And it's just something I've learned, and basically what you're saying is, relationships is very important because a lot of people think because of their talent and they well the Dodgers they're so good but like you said it's a team effort basically. I'm paraphrasing what you said. It's a team effort from everybody from the smallest guy to the top guy, and they all have an
100%.
assignment and they respect each other and they know what needs to happen to give a great product at the end. Does it make sense what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So
100%.
and I want to talk about, you getting in. We got a couple people on. Listen to us right now, Petty. By the way, there's a couple people jumped on that we're talking. I want to ask you some questions because it looks like you did some video production. Is that correct? When you were with the Dodgers, when you first started, you did any video production? How did you get to something like that?
So yeah, so it's so obviously my title is Major League Video Coordinator. So what that is everything that's internal, like for all of our players, all of our coaches, the rest of our staff that we look at, when we're working with a player or something that happens in the game and we can break the video down. So that's basically the video portion of what we do. And
Okay.
then, when you see players with iPads and coaches with iPads and
Yeah.
they're looking at video and other things that are on there, I help produce the video for that and make. So instead of, I used to do this stuff on notebooks, but now I'm able, instead of printing, I put these papers and sheets that coaches need onto the iPads to make it easier. So we're saving paper, but also saving time, and that way time can be used a little more valuable in other things than
Yeah.
printing and putting them into folders. But all that stuff kind of started for me in the minor leagues when I was a minor league coach for
Okay.
5 years.
Okay.
Um, uh, our previous field coordinator at the time, who was our first base coach, now the manager with the Marlins, Clayton McCullough.
Yeah.
He would ask me all the time,
Yeah.
"Hey, can you do this on PowerPoint? Can you do this on Excel?" Yeah, yeah, sure, no problem. And like, I would go YouTube and figure out how to do it. And
I
I
like
did it. Like, there was a lot of stuff that I self taught. Jeremy Rodriguez, was already, a couple years ahead of me in coaching, at least at the professional level.
right,
So
right,
he already kind of was using the computer more than I was using before that, because we didn't really need it. And
right.
him sharing some templates, and my buddy Austin Chubb, who's now the field coordinator for us in the minor leagues. We
Okay.
kind of all would come together and like, hey, let's try this, let's try that, make it our own. And I've come up with a bunch of different things that I watch people do things, and I go, that I like. For example, one is like coaches, managers, whatever it is, at every level. They like chicken scratch a lineup and then they write it on a piece of paper. Well, I was able to learn how to use Photoshop during COVID, um, learn how to edit photos and take backgrounds out and put these onto an Excel template with lineups, and then you have a field, and then I had like the lines so they could write the names on the lines at each position on the field, and then put their batting order. So I was able to do these things on, just by figuring out during COVID,
Wow.
learn how to like do PowerPoint. And so I did our cutoff and relay manual for the organization. That was, I have an animated one, a regular one with videos attached per each play, that has like actual runners if there's runners on, first
Mhm.
and thirds, bump plays, all that stuff. And I literally learned how to do that, but editing the photos on Photoshop and like posting logos and all this stuff. And
Wow.
that's kind of where I started. Then one of our infield coaches, our AAA bench coach, Chris Gutierrez, and I, during COVID, were asked by our infield coordinator at the time, Sean Larkin, who's now the third base coach for the Diamondbacks.
Okay.
Hey, can you guys put together the our infield videos, our infield drills? Sure. So it's like, yeah, made the video, recorded it, got on YouTube, learned how to use iMovie, cut a video, and embed our infield logo on it, and
Wow.
now it's on our website. Yeah, so
Wow.
like, I think COVID was a
Right.
big reason of why I'm in this position. And when I was going back to the minor leagues in 22, when our GM Brandon Gomes, we have a good relationship. He was in the minor leagues. We got hired the same year together in the minor leagues, and he just called me by chance on a Friday and told me that this position was open and they wanted to get a baseball guy in this role that not only could help on the baseball side of things, but also could help in the video room. And I already kind of had some experience, and I would learn the other things as I went.
Cool.
And yeah, so here I am, year 4 in the
Wow.
big leagues, and I'm taking on a lot more responsibilities and things
Right.
that
I lost him. The internet. What happened? I lost him. We have Petty Montero, the assistant coach for the LA Dodgers. For some reason, I just lost him. I don't know what happened. I just lost
and
him.
other coaches with those things, and
Yeah. Can you hear me?
all right,
Yeah,
you good?
I
Yeah, I can
lost
hear
you
you.
for a minute. I lost you for a minute. Somehow you just your internet just went dropped.
Huh?
It
That's
just
weird. I
dropped.
got full bars over here, but
I was like,
sorry, I
what? Something
apologize.
happened. I was like, okay. I just kind of keeping the cool. I
Yeah.
said he'll be back on in a minute. But that sounds really good because basically the bottom line is you try to figure out things on your own. You won't accept no for an answer. Uh,
Oh,
and if there's an opportunity, and if it gets in front of you, if God makes a way, you're gonna figure it out. That's just how I basically just from talking to you and listening to you because I'm a coach, so I like to listen because I like to pick up things about people. So then I'll know how to talk to them and understand their personality because a lot of times um, we do things before we think. We're just doing things. And,
Right.
wisdom is very important. Wisdom is a principal thing. And all that get an understanding. And you learn that from listening to people. You just listen, and you heard the podcast from Jeremy, and you picked up some other things because I'm like, you guys sound alike. And
Yeah.
then I talked to Jeremy, and and you brought up his name, and I was like, wow, I didn't know that. I thought that you helped Jeremy, but it was the
Yeah.
opposite because
Yeah.
I mean that's basically how it was. Relationships is everything, and like I said, guys, or listen to this show. This is episode 64. I got the LA Dodgers assistant coach in here talking about relationships, and it's more than just talent. Talent is great, but I can guarantee you the world champions don't want a bum on their team if they can't communicate, bad body language, can't take anything when I mean, they can't take orders or whatever the case. Even at that level, there has to be some um, integrity and respect for other people because like you know the bad organizations, and I'm not calling organizations, but good, bad, and ugly because the ones that are always consistent, they always are producing. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely. And I think too, just I can only speak for our organization because that's where I'm at and that's what I know. And the things that we talk about are the minor details of, even hitting a ground ball to the infielders the right way. What
Mm,
we talk about topspin ground balls versus backspin. Like
right.
topspin is what you're gonna get in the game. So as coaches, like and I learned this a long time ago from Reggie. Is you have to be able to create realistic look for players, whether it's fly balls, ground balls. I'm fortunate that I can hit ground balls and fly balls from both sides of the plate. So, being able to give that look to players is, something that you have to be able to do. And, it's definitely, even from a pitching standpoint, being around the pitching stuff, because I have to help with, setting up the TrackMan and Edgertronic
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
helping the pitching coaches with some of their stuff too that goes on the iPads and, doing our lineup system that has all this stuff on it. You start to realize like how focused we are in every department, and then you see it on the field, and it's like,
Yeah.
wow,
Wow.
this is why we do what we
We
do,
do.
and
Right.
it's,
Right.
I think the best part is that you walk around the room and you listen to guys. Is it's always, and this is something that got taught to me a long time ago by Reggie, is we don't teach players, players teach us to teach them. And and I think that goes back to like your point of like listening and observing. I'm really observant of people and how they go about what they do, whether it's players and other coaches and just anybody. And you can learn from that and take those things to your next opportunity with
Right.
whoever it is. And
Right.
I think that's what I see a lot, is like it's always like, hey, what do you got? What do you feel? How did that feel to you? Right?
Hmm.
It's never, because we're seeing something, we see it on video, we see this, we're seeing it live, we're seeing it while you're throwing your pen, whatever the case may be. But ultimately, it has to be the feel of the player and
Hmm.
understanding like what is it that you're trying to accomplish. And now, okay, so now I can throw you a bone. I can do a little bit of this. I
Right.
can do a little bit of that.
Right.
Versus, hey, you got to do this, that, the other, and you never give the player a chance to develop and
Mm.
also figure it out himself. Because,
Hmm.
and again, I'll go back to Reggie. He always taught me about, you want to help players for them to be their own instructors, because when you're not around them, they have to be able to coach themselves. And I think
Mm.
that goes to
That's
the
good.
youth guys, especially. Hey, you come do a lesson, like, just because you did a lesson on Monday doesn't mean you don't have to do anything until next Monday.
That's it.
Like, you have to work on these things, because, and I tell players all the time that I had when I was still in the minor leagues doing a lot of lessons and stuff at the time was, you know, when I'm gone, I'll be available. You can send me video. I'll give you feedback. But ultimately, like, I need you to understand your stuff too, just so that you can do this, because
Right.
I may not always be here.
Correct.
You may not even have the availability to get in touch with me for whatever reason. So I
Yeah.
want you to understand and go back to the things and take, here's your videos, here's the notes that we go to. And I think that's kind of what I see, all of our staff members and people within the organization at every level that we have, you know, talking about that. And I think that's something that's really important.
Right.
That I've known, and I've continued to learn and learn from other people as well.
Hmm. It's basically, and correct me if I'm wrong, accountability, basically
Yeah,
being accountable, and
for sure.
also you talked about having discernment of people and understanding. Let them fail, just let them fail so they can learn. But then after they fail, then you go and you check, you go and correct them and say, hey, let's try it this way. And I'm listening to you because, like, coaches like listen to, I like listen to other coaches, coach me, because now it's sharpening me up as a person, and not just a coach but as a person. Which leads me to that next question I want to ask you. I'm gonna throw you a bone right here. Now, you've been around a lot of stars. What is a play of the day that you can share with us that you've seen that just ESPN or Fox Sports have never seen? A play of the day of a player. Can you share that? Oh, he lost him again. I lost him. He's still there? Hello? Hello? Wow, I'm giving some, we getting some bad. I'm gonna have to fix this. I lost him. Let me try to catch him up. Sorry about that, guys. I really appreciate it. Just hold tight. Let's see if he responds and go. This is episode 64 again, um, with the very own Petty Montero, bench coach, assistant coach for the LA Dodgers, 2024 world champions. For some reason, um, we have lost some things, and we're just trying to get back to start again. For some reason, we have lost him again. I don't know how we lost him, but we're gonna see if I can get him back on. Let's see what happens. I don't know if he's there or not, but we're gonna try. I'm gonna hold tight a little few more minutes to see if he logs back on. Because for some odd reason we have lost him again. It could be the reception. It could be many things. He's out at spring training right now, and there he is.
All
He's
right,
back.
let's see. Is that better? Well, I'm
Yeah,
not really sure. I'm moving places. I apologize to everybody.
that's
This usually
okay.
doesn't happen.
I
So,
know. It's all right. Hey, this is called editing. We can edit it. But
yes,
people
we
that
can.
people that listen to it right now, they're like, I'm on YouTube watching this. What happened again? I'm like, don't
Yeah.
sweat it. I'm sorry. Like I said, me and Petty, we apologize. Things came out of our
Sorry
hand. I
about
really
that.
apologize
Yeah,
for the inconvenience. I appreciate everybody that's logging in and listening.
of
All right,
course.
Petty. I had a question for you. Let me go back
All
to my
right, go
question.
for it.
My question was this. I know you're around a lot of talent, a lot of guys, minor league, and also Major League. Can you share with us one play of the day that we have never seen that you could share with us, if you don't mind sharing with the audience? A play of the day we've never seen, but you could just tell us what happened. It could be in practice, it could be anything, something. I mean, because you're around a lot of stars. What?
Yeah, I mean, um, I will say this happened yesterday.
Yesterday.
So yeah, we have the new second baseman that we just signed from Korea,
Okay. Oh
uh,
yeah, 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 yeah.
him.
Kim.
Um, he the guys are like everyone on the infield is like making him feel at home. It's awesome. Yesterday and even the day before, they were kind of like cheering him, like making noise because we were going around the infield to finish our workout, and everyone had to make the play, and he was the last one. So they were trying to put pressure on him, but it was like all in fun. So like right before they were like jumping with them and like doing this whole thing, and then they were like making noise trying to get him rattled, and he made the play, and then they all like went nuts because he made the play, and it was something cool to see because regardless, this is still a kids game, man. Like, and we can't lose sight of, no matter what level you're at, this is still a game,
Right.
and mistakes are going to happen, and you still got to play the game pitch by pitch, inning by inning, and you know, this goes out to a lot of parents, and
Right.
I mean this in the kindest way. I know everyone wants their kids to do well, and I've seen it as an instructor at the youth level and helping kids, and you know, we're not teaching only the game of baseball. We're teaching the game of life, and because of that, like, doesn't matter if your kid's a superstar or not.
Right.
He's going to be a good player, or whatever player he is going to be,
Right.
and just know that you're not going to get this time back when you're worried about, why did my kid get a hit? Why did my kid do this? And and I've seen it. And I've
Right.
had a lot of conversations with parents that I am
Right.
really close with because of this conversation, and their kids ended up taking different routes, and
Right.
you know, potentially, I don't know, maybe I could have saved the relationship between a father and a son. I don't know, but
Right. Right.
the fact that, like, I know how hard my dad was on me, but at the same time, like, my dad, it was a different time, but also the things that my dad was doing was for a reason, because he wanted to keep me off the streets and make sure
Right.
I was disciplined and doing the things that I had to do every single
Mm-hmm.
day. And
Mm-hmm.
like my dad always says, and he always told me, like, there's nothing wrong with what I do, but I want you to do better than me. And my dad, and
Right.
I still live by that code. Like, it's
Mhm.
just something that, you know, when in doubt, you just keep grinding until you get to where you need to go.
That's right.
And, for parents, like, mistakes still happen in the big leagues. The only difference between the big leagues and every other level below that is that it just happens more often,
Right.
and it happens less in the big leagues. And sometimes it happens the same amount. Like, it just,
Right.
you can't predict that. And I
Mm.
think
Man.
we have to we can't lose sight of that this game is still hard regardless of how good we see things, and how, oh, why didn't we do this? Why didn't this player make this? Why didn't he do that? And then you got to go, like, it's not that easy.
Right.
This game is still not that easy. They
Yeah.
just make it look easy, but that comes with a lot of work, a lot of sacrifice. And I can use this example because I had the pleasure of experiencing this all off season, and watching, helping Mookie with his defense this year, back in LA. And like, you watch a guy just grind and talk about everything in his fields, and talking to our first base infield coach now, Chris Woodward, and all the different people that Mookie has around him that are trying to help him, and Miguel Rojas. I mean, everyone,
Mhm.
and it's all for the good of the player and helping him. And you just want to be able to help support any player that wants to do stuff like that.
Right.
Starting mid-November, 2-3 weeks after the World Series, and he's already grinding. Like, you, ton of respect. So again, for all the kids out there and all the young players,
Wow.
what you did today is already gone. So what are you going to do tomorrow? And I think that's the difference when I see people, and there's kids that were out at the places that we were working out at, and they're going, like, this guy does this every single day. Like, yeah, he was doing this 3 days a week, now 5 days a week, 6 days a week. And I think there was a few times we went almost every single day. And it's if you want to get better, you want to be good at something, you got to put in the work. And
Yeah.
that
That,
that's
that's pretty good. I mean, you broke that down basically. Believe it or not, I don't know if you knew this, but you basically said a scripture: train up a child the way it should go, and it should never depart from him. If you train right and you do it every day, it should never depart. Not saying that you may not get off track, but it's in you. It's like in you. It's in your DNA. And I got a question for you. Another couple questions. If you had to pick four players now, you pick whoever with four players, your Mount Everest players of all time.
all right.
Oh,
Griffey,
Griffey? Why you pick Griffey? Just out of curiosity. Why Griffey? Like I'm
because
saying
I
this,
was
Petty. I'm saying this because you got to realize the listeners are going to be listening. Well, why you pick Griffey? He don't even. I'm just trying to
yeah, no,
think
I hear
like.
you, because Griffey was the man when I was growing up.
Yes, he
I
was.
mean,
Yes, he was.
I had Griffey shoes. Man, anything Griffey, I was in.
Mm,
All you
okay.
gotta do was this right here. You knew you were in. I mean, we weren't
Yes.
allowed to wear a hat backwards,
Right.
but
Right. Right.
I mean, Griffey was one. Um, I would say Omar Vizquel two.
Okay, Omar. Okay.
Defensive side. Um, wow, that's tough. I'm gonna go with probably Roberto Alomar,
Wow.
number three.
Roberto. He was
And I had
smooth.
I had the pleasure of meeting him 2022 when I coached in Puerto Rico. He had his team there in the league, and it was really awesome to get to
Wow.
talk to him. Only because Reggie was really close, is really was and is really close with his parents, um, from his playing days with Sandy Alomar Sr. So it was just
Yeah.
one of those things. And I mean, R- Roberto Alomar was a kid when he met Reggie. So and he
Man.
still like as soon as I said his name, he like his eyes lit up. I was like, wow, I was not expecting that. So,
Yeah.
but I got to watch those two guys play too. So it was unbelievable to watch those two guys play in the infield, Junior in the outfield, and I'm gonna have to go with Pudge behind the plate.
You talking about Pudge? Oh, wow. That's a good list because I ask this question for every show, and I've heard Griffey, but I've never heard the other three ever, ever from anyone. I'm like, and I start thinking about it. I said you got to realize what time he played baseball, and
Right,
also he's from the L.A. area, and
right.
it's predominantly a lot of Latinos, and I'm just calling what it is, and I'm like, okay, because Roberto Alamo he was
Smooth.
nice,
And then when him and
nice.
Vizquel were up the middle in Cleveland, man,
Ooh, yeah, nothing
what
gets
a
through them.
combo.
Nothing gets
And I
through
remember,
them.
I still remember even just like watching both those guys on Sports Center. I mean, Sports
Yeah.
Center was a big deal back then when I
Back
was
then,
growing up.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
had
yeah,
Stuart Scott and all those guys, man. It was a whole nother
yeah.
level of Sports Center.
Man, I just said that because I know a lot of guys they don't think like we think. Well, what are you
No,
talking about, coach? That's crazy. What about I won't say names, but the guys that are playing today, I'm like, yeah, but they're still developing. They're still building their legacy. We're talking about guys of all time Mount Everest, and I have to say that's a very good list. Patty, you did. I give you
thank
an A+ with that list there. That's an
thank
A
you.
plus. That's pretty good, man. So let me ask you another question about what are some of the challenges you deal with based on coming from minor league, going to major league, and the class of organization that you're working for. I mean, you're not dealing with you're dealing with the best of the best. And you got to have confidence. You got to have faith. You got to have some belief. You got to believe in God. You got to believe because at the end of the day, like they say, it's a business. This is all a business. We all know it's baseball, but it's a business. And I highly respect the Dodgers, their organization, from where they have been to where they are now, and they know how to get players and they know how to get people in place to run the organization as a class act, a classy, world class organization. So with that, how did you just get in? I mean, we know you had some, you had favor and people you knew, but did it ever intimidate you like, wow, I can't afford to make a mistake because I'm with this organization? I'm just asking the type of questions that people want to know.
So again, like I think this is where I kind of am in a different place. Hadn't been a diehard Dodger fan my entire life. Going to 16 straight opening days, thanks to my dad. Never missed opening day until my freshman year of college.
Wow.
Um, I think that's one. Number two, being around Reggie Smith, and I was fortunate enough to be around Steve Yeager too at a young age, and he was my manager in independent ball.
Okay.
Um, I learned the Dodger way a long time ago, and
Oh,
obviously it's not, things are different now, and like even when I came here, but
right.
that was instilled in me by Reggie before I even knew what that meant, and some of the people that I heard about that are still currently with the organization when I first got on, guys like John Shoemaker, Travis Barbery. There's a lot of people that have been in the organization for a long time,
Long time.
and the Dodger way, and like I was taught this at a young age too. From um, before I go on, and I'm gonna give a shout out to all of my coaches that I ever had because some of them impacted me in one way or another, and I think that's what's led me to want to be a coach and be in a supporting role to help players. And because of what they showed me, whether it was getting on me hard versus soft versus however they
Right.
did it with me.
Right. 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 Right.
I've taken bits and pieces of every guy that I've ever had as a coach, that the good things and even the bad things, and like understanding why,
Hmm.
because I'm all about why. And I think because of that, like I learned the big thing from Reggie, and even having firefighter mentors too, that attention to detail, and like if you don't do your job, people die on the fire ground. If you don't do your job on the baseball
Right.
field,
Right.
people make mistakes and then we lose games. So I've taken that with a great assault, and I think because of that, coming in this organization, I was fortunate enough because of Reggie, and I know I keep saying his name a lot, but I give a lot of credit to him because he put me in these positions to succeed or do my best at, because he prepared me and he allowed me to throw to
Mm.
major league players when I was still playing, because
Playing.
I was the guy throwing for him at the time, putting me in the situations where I was fortunate enough. You know, I'll never forget somebody my first year with the Dodgers randomly asked me, like, "Are you nervous to throw to major league players?" And I was like, "I was been throwing to major league players since I was 21 years old. Like, what am I scared of?" Like, and I mean that, and
Right.
I mean that
Right.
in the most respectful way. It's
Hmm.
not saying I'm the best or anything like that, but when I'm being around Reggie Smith, he's a major league, ex major league player, coach. Like, he's a normal guy. Like, I think the moment you start to put that in your head is like
Right. Right.
you start to become intimidated. You don't do your stuff, and like I just always been told to right here, ears open, mouth shut, eyes open, and you just go to work, put your head down, and don't look back.
Mm.
And when people are talking, you listen. When it's your time to talk, you talk, and if you're asked, you tell the truth. And I think I just stick to that. And you know, I think a lot of it too is just like players prepare at any level, whether it's their off season in high school or whatever they're doing,
Hmm.
fall ball and non-fall ball, and they're just getting ready for spring. Minor league players getting ready, college players getting ready before they come back to school,
Hmm.
major league players getting ready in the off season. I've kind of taken it upon myself too that if they're getting ready and prepared, like I should be ready
Right.
and
Right.
prepared too, and
Correct.
continue to work on things that maybe I used to do and I'm not doing because it's not something that we're doing from a player standpoint, and that's not what they want. And I'll give you an example, like doing the short fungo with how Ron Washington and you see a lot of the guys using the fungo, and I used to do that a long time ago, and I just stopped doing it because we weren't doing it, and now we're getting back to it. So you know would I sit here and just say I just picked it up and just started doing it? Like, heck no, I was out there practicing on knees at a certain distance, finding my route, finding what was good for me, and
Hmm.
throwing BP. Like, you keep working on stuff.
Right.
There's things that happen as you go through. Like, you're not throwing as much, you are throwing as much. You're getting older. You got to take care of yourself, and those are things that I think I take it upon myself to just prepare myself, and I think you know, you just have to be yourself.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's the one thing. Didn't matter what organization or where I was at or whatever I was doing. It's just
Mhm.
if you prepare, you don't have to worry about being nervous or timid or I can't screw up. And
That's right.
you know what? You're gonna make mistakes and you learn
Mhm.
from them and you ask people for help. And that's one thing that I am not afraid of is asking for help. Like if I don't know something, and this is something again, I go back to my roots, like being a firefighter, you got asked a question about a tool or something that you didn't know all the details,
Mhm.
you learn to say, I don't know, sir. I will get back to you as soon as I get that information to come back to you, or ma'am, or
Right.
whatever it is. And
Right.
I think
Right.
that's something that I'm still continuing to do on it. If I don't know, I'm going to go find out what that is, or I'm
Mhm.
going to go confirm what I just told you because I believe that's what it was and I want to make sure, but I'm going to get back to you. Could be anything. But
Wow. Wow.
I
That's
think that's the one thing is if you're preparing and you're prepared and you're doing what you have to do for that stage of what you're doing in your career, I think,
mhm.
you just go in there and do your job.
Right. Right. Because you've already been preparing for it for so long. It's like you. It's like listening to your story, Petty. You've been in spring training since you've been young. You've been in spring training since you've been a young boy. Because
Right.
if I mean, I'm listening to every little detail you've talked about, even from high school, hurting your knee, and then going to Iowa, and then going from uh, Reggie, and more Reggie, and more Reggie, and more Reggie. And I believe that God was ordering your steps. Your steps were already ordered, and you didn't try to deviate from God's divine plan for you. So you just stayed on course. And also another thing is You had a good mentor, your dad. He kept talking to you. He all kept bringing you to those LA opening games. So there was seeds always being deposited in you, and you just kind of it's growing out who you really are. And that's how I'm looking at it because I'm listening to you. I'm like, man, you know, and like you said, one other thing you didn't say this, but you're saying this every day. Get better, do something better every day, and that's just what I get from just talking to you, hearing you, interviewing you, and because a lot of people say, well, yesterday I hit 5 for 5, Petty. I hit 5 for 5 yesterday. I'm struggling today. I'm like, wait, that's a different day. That's a totally different day. We got to deal with today's monsters, not yesterday's victory. So, with that, I'm gonna share something with you with all the listeners. I have something called a triple play. It's called the true triple play. I'm sorry, the true triple play. And you're gonna appreciate this what I'm about to say. It's like a history. It's like a history bunk. So I do this, and there's a guy. I'm not gonna say his name, but I'm gonna tell you at the end. I usually say his name, but you already know who he is once I start talking. He was born January 31st, 1919. He died October 24th, 1972. He was inducted to the Hall of Fame in 1962. He was the first African American to play in the MLB. He was a second baseman. He wore the famous number. We don't talk about his number. We already know who he is. He had a batting average overall 313. He was playing his very first team that introduced him to the MLB was the Brooklyn Dodgers. He played there 1947 through 1956. And it's the very own Mr. 42, Jackie Robinson. That is a triple play for the day. And so, on my true triple play is I give you three truths about this person that people don't know about. Because a lot of people don't know. They say they know, but they don't know. I'm giving you details. I'm giving the date, the birth, when he's inducted, what some of his results he did, and the list goes on and on. He did more than that because I didn't know that Jackie played football at UCLA, and I researched that. And I was like, he played football. So this guy was a bad brother. He was a bad boy. So, I just want to give a shout out to the whole Mr. 42, the Dodgers, for giving him that opportunity, his family, loved ones, friends, everyone that had played a role for Jackie Robinson. And I just want to say that's the true triple play for the day because I try to do that for every episode, and that's pretty cool. I've been waiting for you. Once I got you on here, I said this would be great. A Dodger on the Dodger. So, Coach, you've gave me some great information and all that, and I want to go ahead and get ready to close it out a little bit. I know we had a few hiccups through the podcast, but I have another couple questions for you. But then we can close it on out. My question to you is this: there's something called post game. After every game, coaches got to talk to the players. Always talk to the players. And so this is the post game because we're getting ready to close out the game. But this game is a little different. You only have 30 minutes, Petty. You got 30 minutes as your post game. Now you got to pick someone you need to talk to, or he can be dead or alive. And who would you talk to, and what would you say to him, and why?
Hmm. It could be anybody.
Anybody. You've never talked to him before, but you really want to talk to this guy. If you can ask him, you have 30 minutes to talk to him. Who would this person be and why? And what would you say to him?
Hmm. Oh, does it have to be baseball related, or it could be
No,
anything?
anything.
Oh,
Anything. And why? What would you say? I want to know. I want to hear you. You got some good answers.
I mean, I got two guys I really want to talk to,
Okay. Who?
but I
Who
would
was the
say
two?
Kobe would be one.
Kobe. What would you say with him? I already know why, but what would you say to him?
I mean, I would just ask him like what his process of like why he would do the things that he would do. Like, hearing about going to the gym at like 3 a.m. and everyone's just waking up and he's already done his workout and he's going back for a second one and like, what was like I want to hear from him. Like you hear all the podcasts and all the stuff that he's on. It's unbelievable
Right.
watching him and like what is his actual drive and like sitting down if I had that 30 minutes to just talk to him and just go like you and me were like if he was like someone really really close to me, I'd like to hear that version of it if I
Mm,
got a chance. Just to because I know it's real because you saw him as a player. I mean, it would probably go hand in hand with him and MJ. Like those are
yeah.
if I
Yeah.
could split both those guys in half,
Right.
those are two guys I'd want to know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then probably the other guy would be David Goggins.
David Goggins.
David Goggins, the Navy SEAL.
Okay. And what would you say to him?
He, I would ask him like, because he talks about the scarring of like trauma and the things that he had to go through and how he used that as motivation, basically,
Hmm.
and how he overcame a lot of things, like fear of water and stuff that he had to do as a Navy SEAL, and you know he is like a machine, and how he keeps going. And like there's times where man, we all feel like, man, I can't do this, and then you start to think about your wife and I got a son who's almost 2 years old, and like I gotta grind, like I gotta go, I gotta be here for them, him,
That's
and
right.
watching David Goggins go about his business and like how he goes about things and his mindset. Like there's some part of me that I would say I could relate to it, and then there's a lot of it where, you know, not it's not overkill or anything like that by any means. It's definitely different because he's in a different mindset type of world, and not saying that it's right or wrong.
Right.
But there are things that I would definitely like to,
Mm.
again, on a personal level, really just kind of dive in on this guy and hear his side of it. I've listened and read his books, and those that you find those people that kind of relate to you. You go, man, I want to meet this guy.
Right.
Just like
Right. Right.
you know,
You're right.
he's just someone that you'd be like, man, this guy, I know this guy. We're just like each other in some ways or another, and it doesn't have to be like, and I don't mean it as like, oh, I'm gonna be the most shredded guy in the world. Like, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about his mindset of how he goes about everything that he does. It just
Correct.
happens that that's what his
Right.
mindset is focused on, and obviously other things. But like for
Correct.
me, is the things that I do in my life and
Right.
how I put that focus into that. And you know, sometimes
Right.
you kind of go, man, is this overkill if I do this? Like, and
Right.
then I just go, no, this is what I do, and this is how I'm gonna make it happen. And
Mm-hmm.
attention to detail is
Wow.
a big thing.
That's pretty good, brother, because you said some good stuff, and you basically going back to what you said in the beginning. You take a little bit from every coach, because you said that. I remember it. You say you take a little bit from each coach, and basically it's like a sifter. You put the flour in the sifter. People don't know what a sifter is. You cook, so you know what a sifter. You know what a sifter. We
Mhm.
put the
Yeah,
flour
of
in,
course.
and we
Yeah,
sifted it for a reason. We want it refined. We want it smooth because we want to get everything that don't supposed to be in this main ingredients we're trying to make. And
right.
that's how I'm listening to you, and I'm like, man. I mean, I don't think I'm a detail guy, but from listening to you, I'm like,
Mm.
okay. And you said something very else was very powerful. You said just hearing someone else's story, and people want to say, well, he's buff or he's this or he's that. No, I just want to know why and how did he get to where he is. I know, we know that he's professional. We know he's elite. We know he's a legend. We know he's probably one of the best of all time, but we're not talking about that. You're talking about, let's talk about the birth of who you are. How did it get to this point? And
Right.
that's what I can say I appreciate from listening to you talk, because I'm like, man, this is this guy is really detailed. But you have to be detailed when you're around this kind of people every day in a class of organization. You have to think a certain way, because as a man thinking, so is he. Because if you don't think this way, they're gonna
See you.
they're gonna say, hey, we we don't need your services. So if you don't mind, I know it's getting kind of late, and I appreciate it. I want to can you give out a closing remark, a good closing remark to the listeners? And we didn't really talk about Dodger stuff. We just talked baseball. I
Mhm.
mean, people are like, "Why you didn't ask?" And like you said, it's a matter of a relationship. You don't want to be overkill the first time you with someone and you talk to them like, man. First of all, for the listeners that are on here, episode 64, he just went to work. Give the guy a break. I'm glad and grateful he's on here, but it's some things you just kind of like, it's not the time. Let him enjoy his time, respect his time, and that's how you build relationships. So with that, coach, can you give some closing remarks to some of the young kids and parents that's chasing the dream?
Yeah, I definitely would say there's always a way to do things. You don't always need to find somebody to. You don't have to wait on other people to help you with instruction or whatever it is. Like the things that you're doing, go find a cage to hit and go get a Rawlings and Franklin make a bouncy ball that regular size baseball that you can throw off the wall and teach yourself how to field ground balls, create hops, create space, and do those type of things, and visualize yourself in the mirror
Mm.
and what you're doing. And I mean, those are all things that I know I did as a kid growing up. I still do it where my wife and my mom and people are like, why are you still acting like you're swinging a bat? I'm like, or why are you acting like you're going through your pitching motion or whatever? It's like, I'm just always constantly trying to get better and work on things. Like, you don't even think about it half the time. You just do it. And
Right.
it's like, you think about, you saw a play happen and you're like, okay, why did they attack this ground ball from this? Okay, well, let's go back. Did he? Oh, that makes sense. Okay, maybe. So, you know, things that you guys can do on your own is probably more important than what you're going to get in instruction. And not saying that the people are right or wrong. It's more
Right.
of what you're taking from them. You need to go do it on your own and work on it because
Mhm.
that's the only way you're going to get better. I mean, I remember I had my dad drill a hole in a baseball, and we had a rope and tied a knot at the end and got one of my old Mickey blankets that was my comforter when I had a twin bed before I moved to a queen. And my dad taught me how to use a hammer and nail, and I hammered this thing and hammered the ball with the rope, in this area until I basically destroyed the baseball. And the Mickey uh, cover was like basically like fraying because all the times that it was like going back from being
Mhm.
hit and learning. I was a switch hitter, so that's how I worked on my craft. If somebody couldn't throw to me, I was trying to hit the ball into the Mickey comforter. Like, still
Mhm.
remember like it was yesterday. And those nails, by the way, are still at my dad's house. Only thing, and part of the rope is still there. It's like hanging on. It's probably like it's like sand now if you were probably to pull it. But the nails are still in that wall, and
Wow.
my dad and I still talk, and obviously, and he gave me something that I had when I was a kid. The thing's 32 years old. I'm 39, but it was one of those play school, like you step on it and the ball would pop up,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
saved it and still looks brand new. And my son's using it, so it's
Wow.
it there's a lot of things that you can do. I mean, I think my best versions of fielding was throwing this heavier ball, bouncy ball off the wall, and learn how to create space and move
Great
my
space.
feet and and just react to the ball. And I would throw it as hard as I could to make myself miss it and learn how not to lay the ball. And I
Mm.
think those are things that you people will lose sight of when you have a basketball court in your back. Parents put on layaway back in Kmart back in the
That's right.
days.
That's right. That's
It
right.
took 6 months to get the court, but
That's
I
right.
got it for Christmas that year. And
That's right.
I was in the backyard playing hoop. I taught myself how to rollerblade with a hockey stick, and then you're playing football across the street at the elementary school before they close it up with full gates. It used to be a wide open parking lot, and play flag football, and we would play tackle on cement with my friends. And there was just a lot of things that you know parents, if you can, make your kids play other sports.
Ooh. Wow. That's
I
that.
promise you, like I think it's helped me in more ways than one. And it's I'm able to give myself a chance, and now I can, I'm teaching my son things, and he's almost 2, and he's shooting a basketball, throwing a football, and knows the difference between hut and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
Wow.
and shooting the ball. Like it's
I like
funniest
it.
thing ever. But those are all things that I got exposed to as a kid, and those are lifelong relationships that I built with other people too that I still talk to this day. And they still remember the days of the old Silmar Park basketball days, and AYSO soccer, and
Wow.
San Fernando Braves football. Like those are all things that I took in and made me tougher because I was the smallest guy and I had to play football against really big guys in that city section. And I don't think I ever, you know there's always some fear, but I just played fearless because I was coached by really good coaches and taught to, like, just get after it. And it doesn't matter how big or how small, it's what's in here and what's in
Mm.
here. And I think that goes a long way. So, that was kind of long winded, but I would say for you parents, like, just let your kid be. But fellas, girls, you guys gotta put the work in on your own.
Yeah.
It's not gonna get to you if you just go once a week with an instructor. So
Wow. Well, Petty, you most definitely work for the champions. I gotta give it to you. That's a compliment. That's a huge compliment because you're very detail oriented. You're precise, and you do things the right way. You broke it down. I mean, you literally broke it down from A to Z, and then you did it again A to Z, and I appreciate that because we need great information and the right information. Because the problem is, there's a lot of people say they can do stuff, but they're not doing it the right way.
And I
And
will say for all those kids out there, if you're not working, somebody else is. I still live by that every single day.
man, you heard it from the very own Petty Montero, the very own assistant coach for the LA Dodgers. He has been a classic. I love it. It's episode 64. And the question is, I'm closing out. I'm going to ask the question to everyone that listens, Petty, every time I do this show, every day. The question is this, goes back to what you just said, everything you said today. The question is, where are you being led? This is for all the listeners. Where are you being led? Other words, where is your vision? What's your vision? Where are you going? What direction are you going? Where are you being led? And it goes LED. And what does the L stand for? Like you talked about earlier, I'm going to do what he said. The L stands for listen. Listen to everything that Petty and I has talked about today because faith comes by hearing and hearing the word over and over and over. So if you listen more and hear more, you should be able to execute everything that you listen to today. And I can guarantee you're going to be one step a little bit further than you were the day before if you listen, execute, and the last letter is D. What does D stand for? D, it stands for dominate. You know, you should be able to dominate if you listen, execute, because God has created us to dominate upon the face of the earth. I believe we're all God's children, but the key is this: are you listening, executing, and then dominate? Faith comes by hearing and hear the word of God. Very own episode 64, Petty Montero. Hey man, it's been a blast. I appreciate it. I want you to have a successful season and keep winning. You know, you're a champion. Keep winning. And you know how I feel, but respect is respect. All respect. You know, we'll be talking some more because I know
Yeah,
you guys. I know you guys will be in my town this year. I think you guys play here this sometime soon.
ooh, that's right.
You guys play here, so you're gonna be here. So
Yes.
we're gonna catch up when you get here. So and I think you guys play like 4 games here. I think it's a 4 game series, 4 or 5 game series. So
Yeah.
we'll catch up, man. But thank you, man. I appreciate it. God bless you, and never stress. Take care, brother. All right.
Thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Hey, man. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night. You too.
Thank you.
All